Hope everybody's doing okay. I know I haven't posted in a while. I'm sorry about that. I was very sick again. The past couple of months, my health conditions haven't really been treating me the best, and I'm planning to start uploading a lot more. But this video is going to take a while to edit, so that will be the stumbling block for getting this out. But I would say this is probably one of the most important videos I've ever made. Now, you would think that school would tell you who was primarily responsible for a rocket ship being created. Now, if you watch my other videos, you know my opinion and proof that there is no space. There's the cosmos, and we cannot go there. The first we can go is under the firmament. But you would think that they would tell you who made the jet fuel for the rocket to even work, because rockets, when they were made, wasn't even used to for an attempt to go to space. They were used to fly things across to other countries in times of war specifically. Now, but they won't tell you who made this stuff, and we're about to get to exactly why. So Jack Whiteside Parsons, but his birth name was Marvel Whiteside Parsons, and I believe that's where the inspiration of Marvel Comics came from. It was not surprising at all. And this is Slaves of Satan, episode 32, I think. Yeah, 32 or 33. I'll check before I post it. And I would say in the past 100 years, this is probably the most, in the top 10 of the most evil people that's lived, and we'll get to why. And this is probably going to be one of the longest videos, probably well over an hour, because I've a very, very, very large amount of content here, and I have a lot of stuff that I need to say myself. So he has somewhat of a odd resume. He was a rocket engineer, a chemist, a Thelemite, meaning that he was a follower of Aleister Crowley. Much more than just a follower, but we'll get to that. And also, this is the video where all the other videos are going to start making sense. Like, the connection is going to start to come together. An occultist, the founder of JPL. Now, today it's known as Jet Propulsion Laboratories, but originally it was going to be Jack Parsons Laboratory. And he's not mentioned in school because school is not allowed to mention any types of people that was religious in Christianity, and they don't talk about the occultists either. And I'll tell you why they won't talk about people like him, because the school system promotes atheism, and if you start researching Jack Parsons, you'll go down a rabbit hole of all these different people, and eventually the student would realize that there is a God. Now, I'm not saying that it would lead them to Christianity. It might or it might not, but it would at least break them out of the bubble of atheism. He founded Aerojet. He invented the first rocket engine, made liquid and solid fuel for rockets. He's admitted to Stanford University in 1928, then dropped out due to depression. And I also want to bring up that Jack Parsons did not even graduate a high school. So it's to make absolutely no sense to anybody how he was able to make all this. And I'll tell you how here in a little bit. In 1934, Parsons formed the the Aeronautical Laboratory. He founded Aerojet in 1942, founded JPL in 1943. In 1939, Parsons converted to Thelema, which is the religion of Aleister Crowley. Then him and his first wife joined the OTO, which is the Ordo Templi Orientis. And the OTO, while it was originally a Freemasonry society, started mostly by Theodore Russ and was meant to be a direct revival of the Bavarian Illuminati. Once Crowley got in there, it just became a a Thelemic organization. So Thelemite or Thelema is the religion, and the OTO is the secret society. He became the leader of the California OTO branch in 1942. Parsons was fired from Aerojet in 1944 due to the OTO involvement. You see, this was an era where a very large amount of people still believed in witchcraft, power of the occult. Realized that it was a danger to everyone around them. They understood that this stuff was real. They did not just laugh it off or say that people were crazy for believing that stuff back then. In 1945, his first wife, Helen, divorced him. In 1946, he married Marjorie Cameron, and we'll get all about her a little bit later. BSC plays a big part in all of this too. Shortly after, L. Ron Hubbard scammed him out of his life savings, which we'll get into the detail of how and why here pretty soon. But for people that don't know, L. Ron Hubbard was the creator of Scientology, so he was mixed up with him as well. Because this is pretty much like the peak connection of Aleister Crowley. And Scientology, people don't know this, a lot of it is based off of the Thelemic ideology. There's an old video of L. Ron Hubbard talking about Aleister Crowley and talking about one of his books, and he makes it clear. He says, my great friend. So L. Ron Hubbard saw no problem with all the horrible stuff that Crowley was doing, including massacring kids. So L. Ron Hubbard scammed him. Parsons worked as an explosive expert in the late 1940s. He had an interest in archery and fencing. Worked at Hercules Power Company. And I just want to bring this up real quick. You'll notice that a lot of these companies are based off of the pagan gods of different um, of different areas in the world. You'll be stunned when you start paying attention to names and symbols. Once the veil is lifted of these things, you never look at things the same again. Um, he witnessed the Gnostic Mass in 1939, and this is pretty gross. So the Gnostic Mass is pretty much a perverted version of the Catholic Mass, and the Catholic Mass is a very false religion as well. But the Gnostic Mass, because it was primarily made by Crowley, is very perverted. So instead of drinking like grape juice, organic grape juice, wine, or unfermented wine, and unfermented wine is what we're supposed to drink because Jesus did not actually drink alcoholic wine, but that's a whole different video. Um, so what you drink at the Gnostic Mass, and they do this at both the OTO and the Gnostic Catholic Church. It it's it's either human blood, but specifically they want menstrual blood. So you drink menstrual blood, then the wafer gets even more sick. The wafer is typically made, and this is straight out. This has been told comes straight out of Crowley's mouth. Is made from fecal matter combined with a bunch of other disgusting stuff. And Harry Hay was also in attendance at this Gnostic Mass. And Harry Hay is one of the first people that pushed the demonic LGBT movement way back in the early 1900s. So this was at the moment where Parsons became interested in Thelema, and what got him interested to begin with, he read Aleister Crowley's text um called called Conics and Pax. Parsons believed quantum physics was how Thelema worked. Parsons was invited to Agape Lodge in 1941. His magical name was Frater Tupan. Now, in in these arcane groups and cults, you're usually given a magical name that you're not supposed to reveal to anyone else. That's an outsider. And L. Ron Hubbard's magical name um was it was it was also Freight or something. I can't remember it right now. Now Parsons' Kabbalah number was 210 because there's just like how there's different types of gematria. There's different types of gematria in Kabbalah, Hebrew, Greek. There's a bunch of different ways to do gematria. Now, in 1940, the OTO encouraged Parsons to begin a sexual relationship with his first wife's sister, who was only 17 years old, because they're all about um, doing to just illegal or disgusting sexual acts. Because the OTO is basically a satanic sex secret society, because it's based on Crowley's magic system, and his main thing was always sex magic. Sarah then claimed to be Parsons' new wife. And Parsons bought a 15-room mansion to rent out for $100 a month, but he did not want any regular people living there. Like, he only wanted like occultists, drug addicts, weird people, people that are in strange religions, people with weird hobbies, um, just anything but just like a square, like white picket fence Christian family, or Christians in general. And it was reported that many sacrifices was made on the property, and I believe that there's more than just human. I believe there's a lot more just animal sacrifices made on that property. I believe it was humans too, but the FBI was and CIA and the government's covering it up, because at this point nobody else could knew how to make this stuff for the rockets. And we'll get to how he actually was able to do it soon. Parsons decorated his room with the stele of revealing. That's the Egyptian tablet of what that has Horus on it. That was number 666 at the museum in Cairo. That's one of the things that made it Aleister Crowley believe that he was chosen. He had a Pan statue and magical swords and daggers in his room. Now, Pan is part of the origin of Baphomet, because, like, it went Azazel, Pan, then Baphomet. But Pan, most people think that Pan was just the god of nature, but that's very untrue. Pan was the god of um, sexual molestation and raping children, killing children. It's a it's a horrible, horrible thing. He turned his garage into a chemistry and alchemical lab. He entertained the kids by having fairy hunts on his 25-acre yard, and also held sci-fi meetings. Now, that's something that you'll see a big trend of. A lot of these creators of popular sci-fi series are all occultists, and same thing with these like fantasy, like that, like a bit blur the line of fantasy and sci-fi, like the creator of Star Wars, occultist; creator of Star Trek, occultist. Um, Harry Potter was basically automatically wrote in a way I don't have time to explain that right now. Twilight was wrote through dreams, and it just goes on and on and on. Parsons was regularly using peyote, marijuana, morphine, and cocaine. And he gave almost his entire salary to Aleister Crowley. At work, Parsons was regularly seen reciting Crowley's Hymn to Pan. Now, his Hymn to Pan was a writing that was in, like a poem that was in Crowley's will, wanting the people there to read at his funeral, and it's a very, very sick, disgusting poem. I might put it on the screen. I don't know. It's also just kind of just hard to read. It's so disgusting. The Pasadena Police Department and the FBI began to investigate the Agape OTO lodge after a 16-year-old boy claimed to be raped during a orgy. And there's been kids claiming to be raped by these satanic organizations for hundreds of years, and people used to take this stuff seriously. I would say people stopped taking it seriously once we reached this stupid age of reason, which is ridiculous. And neighbors saw naked pregnant women jumping through fire. I don't know if you've probably seen like a video or a movie or something, people jumping through fire, and witches like to do that because they believe that it's like a show of power. But the secret is that it's not their power protecting them. They're using borrowed powers from demonic entities. And see, what the deal is they'll give you this power while you're alive, sure. But once your time on this earth is done, if the person does not turn their life around and give their life to the Lord Jesus Christ, then the entity takes their soul, and the devil will have your soul thrown into the lake of fire. Now, charges was pressed against Parson, but nothing ever happened, which is usually the common trend for these type of people. And at this point, Parson started adding alcohol, amphetamines, and mescaline to his drug habits. So he's up to eight drugs being addicted to now. So he's far beyond a poly drug addict. Parsons continued sexual relationships with many women, part of the lodge. He became a very high-ranking occultist, Freemason. Um, members said Parson was an A1 man and a Crowley-esque. Parsons was on the cover of Popular Mechanics in 1940. Polyandry was encouraged at the lodge, meaning it's encouraged to not just have one partner, just everyone to sleep around. Parsons created his own Thelemite journal called Oriflamme. Helen, Parsons' first wife, had a baby by OTO member Wilfred Talbot Smith. Then Crowley did an astrological analysis of Smith's birth chart and came to the conclusion that Smith was the incarnation of a god. And then now, after this, L. Ron Hubbard moved in. And you know, whenever he comes into the picture, you got a scam about to happen. And now Parsons became very good friends with L. Ron Hubbard. He wrote to Crowley that even though he has no formal training in magic, he is the most thelemic person I have ever met and is in contact with higher forces, possibly his guardian angel. Now that's something I do want to go over. So when I was a kid, I was raised by a very Christian, born again mom. Unfortunately, I lost my mom at 25, but she didn't really have a lot of knowledge of anything else other than that, because she felt like it was wrong to really research that kind of stuff, and I disagree, because a lot of this stuff people think that is Christian, like the guardian angel. My mom used to talk about how she believed her her grandfather was her guardian angel, but that's not biblical at all. It's actually anti-biblical, because it's actually the occultists that talk about having a guardian angel, and the Satanists, because see, in Satanism, when they say guardian angel, they don't mean a good angel that's on the side of Almighty Yahweh. They're talking about an angel that's working for the other team. One of the fallen angels is what they're actually speaking of, because people forget that there's good angels and there's evil angels. But the term guardian angels is just heresy for the church to teach, just like holy water is a heresy. And that's one of the reasons why I don't go to church, because to me, American Christianity is a disgrace. So now Sarah starts having sexual relationships with L. Ron Hubbard. She then broke up with Parsons. Parsons soon became extremely jealous and devoted all his time to black magic to try to find a new partner. Jack Parsons became obsessed with black magic and voodoo. He taught that the roommates he taught he told the roommates that he was using animism to put magical energy into statues to sell them to other occultists. So, if you don't know what animism is, which a lot of people do not, so animism is when somebody will either take a a demon or just some type of evil spirit or a little piece of themselves, and they will insert it into a random object. The two most common ones that they use for this, well, three. The top three is mirrors. Then second would be statues. Then thirdly would be stuffed animals or dolls. And usually, if it's a statue that you just buy, like from a franchise that's made in a factory, like unless if it's flat out evil, there's usually nothing nothing really wrong with it. But what you do have to be careful of is buying things off an individual person that made it, because that's when they can charge the object. Like this stuff that they print, like, or they'll make 30,000 at a time in a warehouse. Usually that's so you don't need to worry about. But if you're a Christian, we should try not to have anything that looks really sinister and not of God, anyways. Now, Parsons later reported paranormal events in his house, resulting in poltergeist activity, sightings of orbs, and ghostly apparitions, and alchemical sylphs was affecting the weather, and disembodied voices. One ritual brought screaming banshees for the window, and having another and haunting the other members for life. Now, this stuff is nothing to play around with. Now, ask yourself the question: how could a man with no training, somebody that did not have any schooling about this, could just create a rocket, fuel, and all this other stuff without any type of inside knowledge? Like, if you ever go to a museum and see these, like, ones that specialize in, like, planes or rockets, and see these gigantic engines, and just look at them, you'll realize that nobody could have just created this on their own without help from an entity. Now, in December 1945, Parsons began a series of rituals where he would masturbate onto Enochian tablets. Now, the Enochian magic system was created by John Dee, who was probably the most sinister occultist at the time. He worked for Queen Elizabeth, and he was the original 007. That's how they got that name for the movies from. And he claimed to be visited by um an angel claimed to be Enoch. Now I believe he was visited by um the evil Enoch that the Bible speaks of, because there's two. One was bad, one was good, and they gave him this strange language with Enochian calls and Enochian keys and language. I might have to do a video about John D because it kind of correlates with all this. This was known as the infamous Babylon workings ritual, which I've spoken about a lot. This was when the major change in the world happened. The Babylon working ritual changed life forever. There was never anything like that, and I hope to God that there never is again. That's when everyone starts seeing the UFOs all of a sudden. That's when everything just started changing. That's when all these weird anomalies started happening. Like before it, like a UFO or UAP sighting is something that will only happen like like once once every 50 to 100 years. Sometimes hundreds of years went by without seeing them. But after 1947 is when um, people started seeing them all the time, and that was pretty much very, very, very shortly after the Babylon working rituals was complete. Now people claim to see them all the time, and they have for since the 40s now, and it keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And we'll get into what he did to make this happen. Because if it was not for this man, we might still been living in a much more modern, better society. His goal was to physically incarnate the Thelemite goddess known as Babylon. L. Ron Hubbard was his scribe because he was sensitive to magical phenomena. Parsons would masturbate for reasons of spiritual advancement, while Hubbard scanned the astral plane. So, see, this is an example of how screwed up people's minds get when they get into this type of stuff. So you have Jack Parsons just just masturbating in the home, trying to connect with demons, while L. Ron Hubbard is astral projecting his body into the astral realm. Now, the final ritual took place in February 1946, but in my research, I found that was still going on in early 47. And he claimed it was complete. Now, when he comes home, Marjorie Cameron, who I mentioned earlier, and I said she's very important in this story, and not just in this episode. She's very important for a lot of the episodes. Now, so she was at his door, and she claimed that a UFO led her there. So right when we see that Parsons did the ritual, now all of a sudden people are seeing UFOs in the sky immediately. Now Parsons believed her to be the elemental woman because that's something that they were believing that would be summoned too. Now we'll get to what Crowley told Parsons the goal was for the elemental woman. Now they also had sex for 2 weeks straight, and reports who was there say that they did not even leave the room for 2 weeks, and was just having constant nonstop sex. Now in March, Parsons began sex magic rituals with Cameron, who acted as his Scarlet Woman. So in Thelema, you have you have what they call Scarlet Women. Scarlet Women is is basically the occultists or Thelemites woman that engages with sex rituals with them. Now, L. Ron Hubbard was still the scribe. Um, Now, Marjorie Cameron was still not aware of the OTO at this time. But, just like all these other sick people, she was inspired by Aleister Crowley as well, by his book Moonchild. Now, Parsons was attempting to get Marjorie Cameron pregnant, because he believed that she would birth the Antichrist, who the Thelemites called, well, anyone in Thelema they call the Antichrist the Thelemite Messiah. Then these people are sick. And the purpose of the Babylon working ritual was to completely shatter the boundaries of space and time, which, with all the unbelievable phenomenon, I believe that's exactly what they did. Now, in the desert, Parsons claimed that a preter that a preternatural entity, and a natural entity is pretty much a way of saying that an unknown species that seems like it's an extraterrestrial, but they're interterrestrial. I don't like saying that term. We'll say aliens. The preternatural term is used just for something with unimaginable intelligence, but still somewhat like us, but not the same species. Now, he claims that this entity psychographically gave him Liber 49, which he considered to be part 4 of the Book of the Law. So he claimed it to be an addition to Crowley's Book of the Law. Now, Parsons also co-founded a company called Allied Enterprises, and I believe that's still around too. Well, I'll double check. Now, Parsons spent his life savings on a yacht company that L. Ron Hubbard told him would be a good idea. So the deal was they was gonna buy yachts from the Panama Canal and sail them back to Cali and flip them for a higher price. But what went wrong is that L. Ron Hubbard, the one of the top con artists, took um took all the money that Parsons saved was his life savings. He just took it off and ran away. Now, in a telegram with Carl Germer, who is a very high-ranking OTO member, um, uh, now Crowley was also on this telegram. He called Parsons a weak fool, and then Zach Parsons um, changed his mind and performed the lesser banishment of the pentagram ritual, causing Hubbard's ship to crash. The entity summoned was called Bartzabel, a spirit of Mars. Now, these people, I think they know the truth about the planets not actually being real. Now, of course, they look different, but they're not something you can physically walk on. The Book of Enoch explains how they're demons that are chained up for 10,000 years, and that's basically either their prison or it's just that entity that looks like a planet is chained up there and just bound. But anyways, what I'm getting to is he claimed to summon a spirit of Mars. Now Mars is is a demonic entity known for violence and war. So if someone wants to hurt somebody, they will usually pick Mars to summon. Now, after meeting in person after this incident, Sarah claimed to report Parsons for rape because towards the beginning that's who he was having sex with at 17. Now then after this, L. Ron Hubbard went on to start Dianetics and Scientology, which is his cult. Now, L. Ron Hubbard was sent to this. Now, people did not know this until years and years and years later. So, the whole time L. Ron Hubbard was there, he was actually sent to intercept Parsons' Black Magic cults. So he was he was also a government agent. Now, Marjorie Cameron developed catalepsy, which is it's a symptom that while some people with seizures get it, it's where your body just convulses and there's nothing that you can do about it. You don't even really feel a whole lot what's happening. See, then turn to Sylvian's Mulligan's books on astral projection. The the FBI stripped Parsons of his clearance as well. Now, I believe that astral projection can cause all these different neurological diseases because a lot of these people that have these problems is do um have do have astral projected many times because and also in the Bible um most people that Jesus healed was neurological types of diseases because we're not meant to do things like astral project. So it's so horrible for the body because like technically like you're dead if somebody would walk in and find you um until they would like shake you and wake you up, you would look like you was dead. And this is so dangerous because your silver cord is so vulnerable at that point, and once it breaks, it's done. So I still have a whole lot more material about this. I think I'm gonna break it up into two parts. I'm also just kind of nodding a little bit. Um, and and I don't want to take the risk of it not uploading because the video's too long. Because this will probably get into around close to the 2 hour mark. Hopefully I can get part 2 out by tomorrow, and hopefully I can get part 1 ended by the end of the day. God bless you.